This is the Intex 32'x16'x52 rectangular Ultra XTR frame above ground pool. And the biggest surprise for me is how close it feels to a real backyard pool once it is up and filled. I can actually swim short laps. My kids can float and play without bumping into each other. And it has turned hot afternoons into a reason to be outside together. It sits in that category of large above-ground pools that try to give you an in-ground vibe without the digging or permanent construction. I see it fitting best for families or anyone who wants real swimming space, not just a round splash pool, and who is willing to put in honest prep work. If you have a decent stretch of yard and you do not mind a project that takes a weekend or two, this makes a lot of sense. If you are hoping for something you can set up in an hour and use the same day, this is not that. The design is simple but smart in ways that matter. The rectangular shape is not just a look. It lets me swim straight lines, and it makes the shallow end feel usable for lounging while another person moves down the length. The steel frame locks together without loose pins, and once it is seated, it feels reassuringly solid. The finish on the metal has held up well through sun and a couple of heavy storms. I care about that because I do not want to babysit rust spots all summer. The liner has 3 layers and it feels thick in the hand. I have had floats, a vacuum head, and a skimmer brush bump into it, and I have not seen scuffs or stretch marks. The included ladder is tall enough and wide enough that an adult can climb in and out without wobbling. It is not fancy, but it is stable. The kit also comes with a ground cloth and a cover. Neither is luxurious, but both do what they are supposed to do, which is protect the bottom and keep debris out overnight. The rectangular footprint and the height matter in real life. At roughly 32 feet long, 16 feet wide, and just over 4 feet deep, it demands a serious chunk of flat space. The user experience starts way before you click any frame pieces together. Ground prep is the entire ball game. I spent more time leveling than anything else. I tried the usual approach with sand, long straight boards, a level, and patience, and I still ended up about 4 or 5 inches off in one corner on my first pass. When the water started to climb, the tilt was obvious. The water line ran higher on one end, and the side rails on the lower end showed a bit of stress. That moment taught me why every manual shouts about level ground. I drained a portion, added more sand, and used a longer level and a hand tamper to compact the base. I also set patio pavers under each vertical leg to spread the weight. The second fill looked much better. If you are thinking about quick shortcuts, I would skip that thought. A flat base is not just for looks. It is for safety and for the life of the frame and liner. Once the base is right, the frame assembly is straightforward. The snap fit system actually works the way it is supposed to. I laid out all the beams, worked from the corners, and took my time so I did not twist anything. The liner install is the one part where I slowed down and kept smoothing wrinkles as I went. The trick for me was to start filling a few inches, then stop, pull and smooth, check the corners, and make sure the legs were plumb. That cycle of add a little water, adjust, and repeat saved me headaches later. When the water finally started to rise for real, the scale of this pool hit me. With 2 hoses running, it took almost 2 full days to reach the recommended level. There is no same-day swim here. It is a waiting game. I used that time to set up the pump. The sand filter pump is more forgiving than a cartridge system. I filled it with the right grade of pool filter sand, followed the guide for the hoses, and the first prime was painless. The motor hums at a steady tone that fades into the background after a few minutes. I run it for at least 8 hours a day because the water volume is no joke, and that schedule has kept the water clear. The hydro aeration feature, which pulls in little bubbles of air, actually helps circulation. I notice the surface looks cleaner and the water looks brighter when it is running. Backwashing is easy. I watch the sight glass, and when it clouds up, I flip the handle to backwash, then rinse, and I am done in a few minutes. Performance for a pool comes down to 3 things for me: structure, water quality, and day-to-day maintenance. Structure-wise, this frame is tougher than I expected. Even during that first slightly unlevel fill, there were no scary pops or weird creaks. After I corrected the base and refilled, the rails looked even and the sidewalls sat smooth. Water quality has been rock solid with a simple routine. I test with a basic kit every few days. I keep chlorine in the recommended range, watch pH, and add stabilizer once at the start of the season. The sand filter does most of the heavy lifting. Maintenance is not zero. I keep a leaf net nearby and skim every evening if the wind has been up. I vacuum the bottom with a standard pole and hose every few days, and I brush the walls once a week. That sounds like a lot, but in practice it is a calm 20-minute routine, and it beats showing up to a cloudy mess. My real-world testing is just regular life. Long, hot Saturday with kids jumping in and out, adults floating with a drink, and a couple of quick lap sets when the water is still in the morning. The rectangular shape keeps everyone out of each other's way. Two people can pass side by side without staring at a curve or getting squeezed. On a breezy day, leaves from the oak tree across the fence find their way in. The cover makes a big difference overnight. I learned to pull it on before the late evening gusts pick up. After a heavy rain, the water level climbs, and the chemistry drifts a bit, but a short pump run, and a small adjustment brings it back in line. The liner has not stretched, the seams look clean, and the bottom still feels smooth underfoot. A specific use case that has become a habit for me is an early morning swim before work. The water is calm, the air is cooler, and I can get a quiet 10 to 15-minute session that actually feels like exercise, not just splashing around. I drop the ladder in, set the pump to run for the day, and knock out easy laps from one end to the other. The length is just enough to get a rhythm, and the rectangular shape keeps me tracking straight without thinking about it. Later in the afternoon, when the kids are home, the floats and the little floating cooler that came with the kit make it easy to hang out without constantly climbing in and out. None of those extras are essential, but they do make the space feel more like a proper hangout, not just a big tub of water. There are a few touches here that feel genuinely helpful. The snap-together frame saves time and avoids the frustration of juggling loose hardware. The sand filter is low maintenance and inexpensive to run over a season compared to cartridge swaps. The hydro aeration feature does make the water look clearer, and it reduces that flat, stale look you sometimes see in above-ground pools. The included ground cloth is thin, but it makes sliding the liner into position easier and adds a small buffer against little rocks you might have missed. The ladder has wide steps and handholds that make it friendly for different ages and sizes. None of these things are flashy, but they remove friction from the daily routine. It is not perfect. The sheer size means you cannot hide setup mistakes. If your yard is not level, the water will tell on you. Filling takes patience and a couple of days of planning around hoses and water use. The cover is a two-person job in windy weather. The pump's steady hum is not loud, but it is present, so I placed it on a rubber mat and kept it away from the fence to avoid echo. And while the frame finish has been great so far, I still wipe the legs down after a storm just to stay ahead of residue and dust. Taken as a whole, this pool is for people who want a real swim at home and will respect the setup. If you have the space to give it a flat home, if you are willing to spend real time leveling and checking as you fill, and if you can commit to basic maintenance, it pays you back with a backyard that feels like a retreat. I would not plan to take it down and put it up every season. It is possible, but it is not fun. Set it in a good spot, treat it like a seasonal fixture, and it will carry your summer. If you are choosing between a round pool and this rectangle, I would lean rectangle if you care about swimming in straight lines, sharing the water with multiple people, or setting up little zones for play and lounging. If you have a tight or uneven yard, or if you want something you can store easily between weekends, this probably is not the right move. That is my honest take after living with it, working through the setup, and using it day after day. It has earned a permanent place in my yard, and it has changed how often we choose to be outside together. If you want me to test anything specific with this pool, or you have questions about ground prep, pumps, or chemistry basics, drop a comment and I will help where I can. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe so you do not miss the next one and leave a comment with your experience or questions. Thank you for watching.